Are you desiring more out of life? More love, more connection, more experience, just more aliveness? Well, that is your soul calling you, and together we are going to uncover those soul desires and help you bridge the gap between your physical life and your true soul self. Welcome to the Suddenly Spiritual Podcast. My name is Emilee. I'm an intuitive, a psychic medium, and someone who recently and very suddenly awakened to spirituality. On this podcast, we are going to talk all about connecting with your soul to live your fullest, most beautiful life. We're going to talk about spirituality from the perspective of the everyday person. It's my goal that you feel seen and supported on this journey of discovering your soul and awakening to the incredible world of spirit. Let's get started. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Suddenly Spiritual Podcast. You're here with me, Emilee, your host, and I'm so happy to have you here for another episode. Recording this podcast is one of my favorite things to do, and I'm just so happy to have you here listening and excited about these same amazing spiritual topics that just light me up. So, thank you for being here. Today's episode, I'm actually a little nervous about talking about, but it feels really important, and I feel like it's time. It's time for me to chat about this. And what we're talking about today is spiritual healing. And I'm going to share with you my experience of spiritual and emotional healing with Archangel Michael. And I think part of my nervousness or my hesitation maybe with talking about this topic is that I am not an angel expert, but I do have this recent and very powerful experience of connecting with Archangel Michael. And I I did not believe in angels before. This is like my whole spiritual journey has been me not believing in something, and then it's right in my face to the point where I just can't ignore it anymore. And that's been my experience with learning about angels. And Michael came into my awareness, and it was incredible. There's no more doubt at all about the existence of angels and our ability to work with them toward healing. And what I'm going to share with you today is my experience working with the Archangel Michael to do some really deep and potent spiritual healing, emotional healing, internal healing of some very deep set and difficult beliefs that I held about myself. Before I get into everything, I just want to offer you a disclaimer that this is me sharing my experience of healing, but I'm not a therapist, and I'm not telling you how to go about your healing journey, because I believe we all have healing to do. I'm not telling you how to do it. I just really want to share my experience and share what Michael has taught me, because it's been a really incredible perspective shift for me. And I hope that by hearing my story, my experience, the way I've been led through this emotional healing with this amazing guidance from Michael, just holding my hand the whole way, I hope that by hearing it, it gives you something to think about in your own healing journey. And as you are listening, if this resonates with you, keep what resonates with you. If there are things you hear that just don't sit well with you, then leave that behind, because you know yourself best. And while I believe that we all have healing to do, I also know that we're all so different in our experiences of the world. We all have different hearts, different souls, different needs. And so hopefully my experience speaks to your needs, to your heart, to your soul. But if there are things in here that don't resonate with you, don't feel like I am trying to tell you what to do. I'm just sharing my experience. And even if this experience doesn't resonate with how you think healing will happen in your life and in your spiritual journey, maybe just by me sharing the difficulties that I've had, some of these difficult emotions and repeating patterns that I've had in my life of feeling very, very, very low and very poorly about myself. I know that I'm not the only one who has experienced these feelings, experienced these cycles. And so maybe if you also have these sort of deep rooted, difficult feelings that keep reoccurring in your life, this will help you to feel a whole lot less alone, because you are not alone in that, my friend. Sometimes life really feels like a deep and difficult struggle. And well, there are so many days, the majority of days, where I feel like I'm on cloud nine with just the most expansive happiness and joy. There are also days where I am deep in the dark, and it's really difficult to continue moving forward in the direction of happiness and joy. And that's where I was when Michael came into my awareness, visited me, and started teaching me these really incredible healing practices that I'm going to share with you today. So, this experience and what I'm going to share, this isn't anything I learned from a teacher. This isn't anything I learned from a book. This is what I learned directly from the Archangel Michael as he came to me in a vision and while I was meditating, and repeatedly brought me through this healing process. So, my intention for you today is just to share a perspective, my perspective of spiritual healing, emotional healing, internal healing, and hopefully help you to feel a connection with my experience, help you to not feel so alone. And maybe you'll find some practices that you want to incorporate in your own healing journey if you're going through some darkness, if you're going through some heaviness. I also want to say the type of healing that I am talking about is emotional healing. I'm not talking about healing from a specific trauma or traumatic experience. I mean, that can be incorporated, but I'm not advising anyone to revisit traumatic experiences. This isn't a healing that I was taught where we go back to specific situations. This is healing you right now, your feelings right now, who you are right now. And while there may be traumatic experiences in the past, we're healing the emotions that have been brought forward from them in the now. We're not traveling back in time and reliving those experiences. So I just want to make that distinction, because there's a lot of healing methods that have you travel back and re-experience that trauma, and that's not how I was shown in this situation. It's not how I was shown to heal. It's not the type of healing that I'm talking about today. So let's just get into it. I haven't really told this story before, so bear with me and hopefully I don't stumble through it. It's really amazing to finally be able to say this experience out loud and to share it with someone, and I hope it's as impactful for you as it was for me. So, my experience with Archangel Michael all started with a session I did with a spiritual healer, an energy healer. I did a session with her, and at the end of the session, she said, "You know, Archangel Michael's been working with you, right?" And I said, "No, I don't know that." "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Let me introduce you to Archangel Michael. He's there with you right now." And I said, "Okay, whatever." So she did this introduction, but I was very skeptical, like incredibly skeptical. And this was back in maybe February. This was a while ago. And I just was like, I don't know, angels, believing in angels feels like, it almost feels like too convenient. It feels like a fairy tale that just doesn't seem real to me. So I sort of brushed off that experience. And then a few weeks later, I was meditating and I was doing this practice where I meditate and I go through all my chakras and I work through the energy in those chakras. And the meditation I was doing included releasing all negative feelings, all negativity, all heaviness, releasing that energy and watching it float out into the atmosphere, off into space away from you. So every time I listened to that part, I felt so uncomfortable. I felt like I don't want to release this negativity out into the world. This isn't everyone else's responsibility to experience the negative feelings that are inside of me and to experience the heaviness, the low vibrations. I was really like at odds with what this spiritual teacher was directing me to do, which was release all this negative energy out of me. And all I could think of was, well, where is it going? Is somebody else going to pick this up? Like, I don't feel like this is safe and responsible to do. And as I was in this meditation, I'd done this meditation many times, had this thought many times. And as I was doing this meditation again, I started to sense a presence near me on my left side, standing sort of right behind me. And I realized that this was Michael. I can't tell you how I knew. I just felt it. I felt this incredible love, and it brought me to tears. And how Michael comes to me is always standing on my left side, and he puts his hand on my shoulder. And it's in a way that is like, I don't know, like a teacher, like a guide. That's really how I feel like my relationship is with him, that he is a teacher and a guide, and he is teaching me things that eventually I am meant to teach other people, like right here in this moment, teaching you about my experience of healing with him. I see him as red. Sometimes, most of the time, he's like a person. So he's got his hand on my shoulder, but his energy is so just red and grounding and safe. It is the most safety I have ever felt when he is with me, which is all the time. But when I'm connecting in with his energy, it's this deep rooted safeness. And he came to me in this vision, and what he led me through was just incredible. And that's what I'm going to share with you. He led me through the same practice of releasing all of this negative energy from me, releasing my long held, deep rooted issues I had with self worthiness, with not feeling like my opinions were valued, feeling like what I said didn't matter, feeling like I didn't matter. All of those low, heavy, hard to admit feelings. It's hard for me to say those things because they're so deep and hard to face those feelings. And he had me start releasing them from my body. And I could see the energy coming out of my body, this negative energy. And it was dark. It was like cloudy and gray and black. And it was just this heaviness. And what he had me do is, instead of releasing this energy out into the universe, out into the atmosphere, is as I was there with him, he put my hands together, like my hands cupping, and the energy all came into my hands, and it created this ball, this like glassy ball of energy. And you'll just have to stick with me on all of this, you guys, because it's so visual and so metaphysical, but it was such an incredible visualization. So all of this energy comes to my hands, this negative energy, this heaviness, all of these things that I have thought and felt about myself that kept me down, that kept me low, that kept me from being able to expand and move into the life that I wanted, that kept me from being the present, loving person that I knew I was, but somehow could not step into. It was all there in my hands. And what Michael directed me to do is he had me look at this energy, like look at this ball of difficult emotions, look at this ball of heaviness. It was hard to look at, okay, because it was so much heaviness. He has me look down at it, and it's all glassy and dark, and I can see my reflection in it looking back at me, and it was so emotional. And I had a lot of resistance to this, but Michael was encouraging and patient and said, this is what you have to do. This is how you heal. And so I looked down at all of this difficulty, all these difficult emotions, and then he directs me to start speaking to it, speaking to this ball of fear, the ball of worry, anxiety, depression, speaking to it and saying, I see you. I accept you. I love you. And as I'm saying these things, I can see my reflection on the face of this ball of energy. I am sobbing because it's so emotional to look at those deep, dark parts of yourself and to see them, and then to start working towards accepting them, and to even go as far as to give them love and to infuse love into the fear, infuse love into the depression, into the anxiety, into the grief, into the heaviness. Wow. Like, it's going to make me cry again talking about it now. It was so profound to not let go and push away these deep, dark feelings, but to actually see them and accept them and give them love. It was something that I had never thought to do. My thought was always, get this feeling away from me, get me out of it. I feel horrible inside, get it away from me. And while my reaction was to run away, to escape, Michael was saying, no, you are here. This is part of you. This is part of you. It is not separate from you. You give it love. You heal it by giving it love, by seeing it and accepting it. And as I sat there staring in this vision, in my meditation, at this ball of fear and worry and panic and depression and heaviness and guilt and shame, Michael's hands were under my cupped hands. And this ball of darkness started changing. The colors started swirling, the gray, the black swirling and changing to white and getting lighter and lighter until the ball of energy in my hand was light. It was healed. It was pure. It was filled with love, filled with divine love, unconditional love, filled with acceptance. And what happened next was Michael took my hands and directed me to put that ball of energy back into my heart, back into me, not to release it, not to push away the fear, the anxiety, all of that difficult feelings that I had been experiencing. Instead of pushing it away, he directed me to not only give it love, but to love it and accept it so much that I could put it right back into my heart and accept it as part of who I am. This was so profound. I cannot even convey the clarity I had in these moments working with Michael. And this was not a one time meditation, a one time realization. This was something that I repeated with Michael over and over for weeks, for months. I would go into meditation and be brought back to the same experience, this same release of the negativity, putting it in my hands, loving it, healing it, and incorporating it back into who I am. It was incredible. And this perspective of healing was totally foreign to me. It was totally new. It was this realization that the fear I felt, the dislike that I had for myself, the anxiety, the depression, the guilt, the shame, those things are not separate from who I am. And that in order to move beyond those feelings, I had to accept them and give them love. And that was the only way to heal it. I couldn't heal it by shooting these these bad feelings off into the universe and then expecting them not to resurface, expecting them not to bubble up inside of me again. Because what the original meditation was guiding me to do was to release them, but releasing is not healing. Releasing is like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound. It's not the same. And it doesn't stop the feeling, the situation, the pattern from reoccurring. Michael was teaching me that the only way to move forward in my life, to move out of the heaviness, was through love, was through seeing myself as a whole self and accepting that I am not perfect, accepting that I have these deep feelings that are dark sometimes and heavy, and it was okay. I can love myself anyway. I can love those feelings. I can accept that this is part of who I am. This is part of my journey, and it is safe for me to exist in this way. It's safe for me to love those parts of myself. And as I was taken through this healing over and over again, and my friend, it was hard. It was really hard to look at those feelings square in the face. As I was taken through that over and over, truly those dark feelings got lighter. They happened less and less. And when this experience with Michael started, I was pretty deep in a depression, in some really heavy feelings of guilt, heavy feelings of shame, heavy feelings of not being good enough. I was having panic attacks, anxiety attacks. I was deeply struggling. And through this consistent connection with Michael and this willingness to actually look at the things that I had tried to ignore, but actually look at them and give them love, I came out of that depression. I came out of that anxiety, and so far it hasn't returned. Like I said, this started back in February, and I've been feeling pretty amazing since then. I still have days that are low, but it's like I know the process. I know now that in order to come out of that heaviness, the answer is love. Even though it feels so hard in those moments, the answer is still love. And it's a miraculous, amazing, because in the heaviness, what I know I can do is I can call on Michael. I can say, I need you. I need your help. Please hold my hand. Please hold me through this. Please guide me through this. Please help me be brave enough to see myself, to see the darkness, and to give it love, because that takes a lot of bravery. And I did not have that bravery on my own. I leaned so heavily on Michael's healing, grounding energy to bring me through that. So that is my experience with Michael teaching me this new perspective of healing, of moving forward and finding how I can continue to expand and grow and live in love and happiness and be present in my life. The key is love, but this was self-love on a deeper level than I ever even imagined. And I am so grateful that he came to me and taught me this, held my hand through this, led me through this. And if what I'm describing sounds like what you need in your life, Michael's here telling me to call on him. You can call on him, and he will be present with you. You'll feel his grounding energy, his energy of strength, of guidance. It's just this incredible masculine energy that lets you feel safe. It was like I finally felt safe to fully experience those heavy feelings, to fully see them instead of resisting them. And once I stopped resisting them, but saw them, accepted them, gave them love, gave myself love. It's when they started to change and to dissipate, and it was so incredible. And one other thing I want to say about how meaningful this vision was is, as I was in the vision with that heavy energy in my hands, with it being so reflective and looking down on it, there is something so powerful about looking at yourself. Even in this meditation, this was just a vision of me looking at myself, looking at my face, looking at myself face to face, and saying the words, I see you. I accept you. I love you. If you are ready for some deep healing, if you're ready to step into that deep work, and I'm telling you, it's hard, but it's so necessary and it's so worth it, because there's an incredible freedom on the other side. But what I was going to say is, one step into that healing and into that freedom is looking at yourself, physically looking at yourself. Look in the mirror, look yourself in the eyes and say, I see you. I accept you. I love you. It is so powerful, just so powerful. How often do we look at ourselves and say those things and say it out loud? Trust me, it'll be the most profound, loving experience that you can create for yourself. And it might make you cry, okay? It definitely made me cry when I was in the depths of it. And even now, when I practice that deep self-love, it still brings me to tears sometimes, because we're always on this journey of learning to accept ourselves on a deeper level. And I feel like that is my journey. Oh my God. Learning to see myself, allow myself to be seen for who I truly am. And so to give myself that recognition, instead of waiting for someone else to give it to me, but to give it to myself, that is deep love. That is deep connection with myself. It is me creating the visibility that I want within myself, because the truth is, I will never let everyone else see me for who I truly am if I can't even let myself see me for who I truly am. And that's what Michael was leading me to. Michael was leading me to seeing myself for who I truly am, and giving myself that divine, unconditional acceptance and love and permission to be myself. Just permission to be imperfect, permission to learn to love myself, learn to be present, learn to be here in this moment with me, so that I can be here in this moment with everyone else who's so important to me. So, my friends, I really hope that this episode is helpful for you. I got a little passionate here. So, thank you for bearing with me while I got a little bit preachy. But oh my gosh, this is just such a deep and profound experience that I had. And I really hope that it spoke straight to your heart. I hope you take something from here, whether it's a new perspective about healing, a new perspective about self-love, whether it's a practice you want to try, whether it's that you want to try your own connection with Michael. I promise you, he's there. He's available to anyone. There's no one who he will not connect with. Everyone is important, and you are just as important as anyone else. He's just as available to you as he is to anyone else. All you have to do is call on him, ask, invite him in, and start feeling that amazing grounding energy. Okay, my friend, I love you so very much. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will chat with you again next week. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of your journey of spiritual expansion. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave a review for me on Apple Podcasts. It's a quick, free, easy way for you to support this podcast, and it helps me reach more people who are looking for support on their spiritual journey. You can find a link to leave a review in the show notes. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you soon.